5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, before we get to Isaac Yeffet, how's this scenario? 4 or 5 men carrying backpacks, traveling in groups of 2, climb up to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge in the middle of the night. And instead of planting bombs and lacing the whole structure with explosives, they switch flags. They switch the American flags for white flags. And now the NYPD has pulled dozens of officers off of other assignments in order to find these men who they saw on video after the fact. Now, people have poo-pooed this. People have made light of this. People have said, it's nothing. It's probably a prank. I don't care if it's a prank. I don't care what it is. This has to be an eye-opener for security, for crying out loud. Backpacks, men, middle of the night, climbing the Brooklyn Bridge, and nobody saw them? How is it possible in our post-9/11 world? How on earth is it possible? Okay, Isaac Yeffet joins us, but first I want you to watch Mayor Bloomberg speaking from Israel last night.
Everybody seems comfortable. Everybody thinks they're well protected by an army and an air force that knows how to fight and is out there trying to protect them. And when they walk down the streets, when they send their kids to school, when they go to the parks, when they get to a concert, they feel safe. If you don't feel safe here, I don't know where you'd feel safe. And I think the State Department is just overreacting in typical bureaucratic fashion.
All right, folks, Mayor Bloomberg in Israel, and I don't often agree with him, but I agree 100% with what he did. And, of course, as we told you a moment ago, the FAA rescinding its order, reversing itself, and flights are now allowed to fly into Israel from the United States. And joining us now, as promised, is the former Director of Security for El Al Airlines and also former Deputy Director of Security for the Israeli Foreign Ministry. And we say hello to Isaac Yeffet. Hi, Isaac. How are you, sir?
Hi. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Pleasure to have you. So do you believe that the FAA did the right thing in reversing their decision?
100% yes. Because from the beginning, I said that it was a mistake to take a decision not to allow the American airlines to fly to Israel. The results of this, all the European airlines immediately, they decided to stop flying to Israel. 2 weeks, there is a war between Israel and the Hamas terrorist organizations. And every day, they were shooting between 100 and 150 rockets toward Israel. What happened? Nothing. Hundreds of thousands of passengers were flying during these 2 weeks, landing in Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, taking off. No one was hurt. Why suddenly?
Well, let me ask you, do you think it was political? Do you think it was our administration here doing it on purpose for some reason?
My answer to this, I hope that it's not political, because I don't want to discuss politics. As a former head of security for El Al, I used to deal with security to save life of passengers and innocent people. I spent most of my life in Israeli Secret Service in the field of anti-terrorism, so I know what I'm talking about. The sky in Israel was, from day one, the war, safe and secure. So many flights came to Israel and left Israel with passengers. No one was hurt. Suddenly, because of one rocket blowed up a mile from the airport, this decision, is it logic to do it? Don't you know that rockets cannot hit aircrafts? Don't you know that Israel will not commit suicide by continue flying together with another 2 Israeli airlines to take off and to land day and night, because we knew that nothing happens, because we know that the sky is secure, safe, we know the passengers are safe and secure, and thank God nothing happens.
So I won't ask you if it's politics. I'll just ask you to maybe answer your question. So all of a sudden, what happened that made the FAA do that, do you think?
I don't want to try to guess, but I want to say that I'm very happy that the FAA decided soon and fast to change their mind and to allow U.S. air carriers to fly to Israel, and as a result, all the European airlines made a statement today that they also will continue to fly to Israel and from.
We have reports, sir, and in your previous capacities, that there's fears that Hezbollah and other groups, I believe some other groups have joined with Hamas from the Gaza Strip to participate in this war with Israel. Do you fear that another front might open up while this is still continuing?
No, because when it comes to the airport.
Continuing?
No, because when it comes to the airport, we are so safe and secure there.
No, I'm talking about just in general with the battle. Do you believe that Hezbollah might get involved from Lebanon?
From Hezbollah, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. What's his name? The leader of Hezbollah made very statement after the last war. He said, and I quote, "If I knew that this will be the results of the war ahead against Israel, I would never ever open this war." And he remembers this. Now, statement by the leader of the Arabs, we all know, especially the leaders of terrorist organizations like Hezbollah or Hamas, etc., etc.
They're not worth much, right?
Yeah, it doesn't impress us, but we know exactly what is behind it, and they know it's better for them not to start.
Okay, now let me talk about Iran. Certainly, the United States is in talks, as are other countries, with Iran. The deadline for those talks were just extended. Sanctions were taken off, and yet you have the Iran supreme leader today saying the only solution for the crisis is Israel's destruction. These are remarks he's made before, again and again, but making them again today. In light of this kind of statement, do you understand how the United States could still pursue talks with this country?
Number one, sorry.
That's okay.
This is not the first time that Iran, and especially the former president of Iran, made statement after statement that the only solution for the Israeli country and the Jewish country, people is to destroy the state of Israel. So talks doesn't cost too much. We are not weak. We have enough wars against few Arab countries at the same time that they fought against Israel, and we all know the results. Never ever we lost any war. We don't want war. We are not looking for war, but if they start, we will respond. Look now at the Hamas. We told them, don't send rockets toward Israel because we will respond you. They thought that they can hit us. So look at the results. Look how many hundreds of terrorists were killed. Close to 600 terrorists were killed until now. More than 4,000 were injured. More than 4,000 were injured. And where is the end? Now with the ceasefire, they are coming with conditions that, I don't know, only God can tell us from where they brought this condition.
Well, now they want a 5-day ceasefire, apparently. They're calling it humanitarian. But Israel believes, as I believe I heard them say, and I certainly believe, a 5-day ceasefire, it gives them a chance to reorganize and regroup and get their act together, right?
You give the answer. Because a few times the United Nations, the General Secretary of the United Nations came and he asked for ceasefire for a few hours, for 48
and they
hours.
said no, right.
And they said no.
Yeah.
They have conditions. now ceasefire for humanitarian reason? And the answer was no. If you don't want, so come and war. We're open to continue the war. We found 3 dozen of tunnels that they built from Gaza toward Israel territory, and nobody knew about this. And suddenly, we found that this is very dangerous for the Israelis that live in the border of Gaza. They could go over there, no one will see them, and then it will be massacre.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask, we only have a couple of minutes left, and I do want to ask you, this tactic of using the human shields and then claiming Israel's committing a massacre, that's what they've always done. Why does the world keep accepting that scenario that put forth by the Palestinians?
I wish I would be able to answer and to understand the world why they are looking to believe them. There are so many evidence that inside the houses of the families that live in these houses, the Hamas terrorists are shooting from there. And the Israeli army has to answer them. And you find out that the first you killed innocent people because they became the human shield for the terrorists. They care about themselves, but not about the miserable people that have no choice, and they have to follow the instructions of the Hamas.
Yeah. All right, Isaac, thank you so much for your expertise. We appreciate it. Great to talk to you, sir, and I hope you'll come back soon.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll do it with pleasure. Thank you.
All right, folks. We're going to talk about all this and more with the Malzberg panel, which is up next. Coming up right here on Newsmax Television, The Steve Malzberg Show.